disruptive.
America that I fought for.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. Been a fantastic day so far. So, continuing on the conversation of Donald Trump appearing on the Dr. Phil primetime streaming service program. I didn't even know that existed, but apparently it does. Because it was a very interesting conversation that was an hour-long conversation. I'm not going to show all the footage there, but I want to highlight some key moments because the conversation was very enlightening in the fact of how screwed up, how messed up, how we live in an oligarchy for one thing, but just how screwed up this oligarchy is, how it's not only just rigged, but fixed against the regular public in the hopes of emphasizing the establishment in their ruling against the general public, how they're trying to silence out political opponents, so on and so forth. And one of the things that they bring up, actually Donald Trump brought up, was the fact that, he was one of the prominent voices that brought up the deep state. And that was one of the things I think the establishment kind of freaked out about and started realizing, oh, we got to cut him out of the picture because now people are waking up to the fact that, oh, maybe there is a deep state. Maybe there are people that are actually in control of the country. Maybe, presidents and prime ministers are just mascots. Maybe we actually don't live in a democracy. Oh, we're losing faith in the institutions. So he brings it up to Dr. Phil about how there's this kind of dark force that's really in control of this country. And I think it's more relevant now in the fact that Joe Biden, an 81-year-old elderly man who's very much in a mental decline, so much so that he can't finish his own sentences, he can't walk off stage, he can't even walk across the lawn to Air Force One. He has to have Secret Service by his side to pick him up and drag him. It literally is embarrassing. It's horrifying, and it's also just for the sake of Biden. I feel bad for him. I emphasize on the fact that this is an elderly man who's supposed to be in control of the country. He was responsible for 330 million people, and he can't even walk off stage. That's, to me, it sounds like elder abuse. And I'm saying on behalf of just, seniors, on behalf of just people at that age where you're in physical decline, that you're in mental decline. I wouldn't put them in a position of power like this. I wouldn't hold them responsible for this many people. But that's the system that we're in, and Donald Trump's going to blurt it out to Dr. Phil, which is going to the establishment. So listen to this.
What is the hardest, darkest moment that you can think of in this journey you've been on the last several years?
You have to be very strong. You're fighting off very evil forces, and they're very smart forces. There are people that control Biden, totally true. I think I know who they are largely. But there are people that control them. They're very smart, very energetic. Possibly they're real believers, what their sick ideology is.
What is the hardest, dark?
So, we've heard this numerous times. A lot of speeches of his always mentions about the deep state, and people kind of blow it off and be like, oh yeah, that's something like Alex Jones has said in the past, and so on and so forth. But it's actually, the more we've seen the White House in action, the more we've seen how policies are being made, how they're being addressed, how they're being funded, where the money's coming from, how decisions. It's way more relevant now than ever before. People are waking up to the fact that, we have this bumbling buffoon as a president. You have Kamala Harris, who just giggles every time she, gets caught in something. So the fact that these two Looney Tunes can't even function themselves, and yet somehow they're in control of running the country, something's up. Someone has to have control over these two. And if you look at, going back to rewind to 2020 during the primary, think about this. You had 20 Democrats who are trying to go against him. 20 Democrats running for president going against Donald Trump. Out of those 20, somehow Joe Biden, who barely polled a percent, was able to win everybody and then run for president and go against Donald Trump. I mean, I can't say too much on that because that could be election denial and interference, and we can't mention about that on certain platforms, but just think about that. That a guy who was barely polling somehow jumped over the 19 other Democrats that were running against Donald Trump, including Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Mike Bloomberg, who joined last minute. Somehow he was able to just go right over them without any popular position, and then became president. And most likely it's because the deep state, the establishment, the intelligence services, and the agencies wanted some sort of puppets. They want someone that they could easily manipulate to take control. And they found Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. It's perfect. And here's also another way to look at the fact that the deep state really does have control, because they've announced this. They've announced this personally on mainstream media. Here's Chuck Schumer once again. This is back in, I think, 2017, when Donald Trump was going after the intelligence agencies for exposing how they cultivated crimes against him to try to silence other political opponents. Donald Trump revealed that on a bunch of Twitter posts, and here's how Chuck Schumer responded to that.
Taunting to the
Let me
intelligence
tell
community.
you take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think?
So that's the intelligence agencies threatening the president of the United States that you better stay in track, you better do our bidding, or so help us God, we have 9 ways Sunday to take you down. They're saying that to the president of the United States. So if you still want to think that there's no such thing as a deep state, that's clown stuff from 20 years ago, it's more prevalent now. It's more revealed in the past few years than ever before. This is them admitting to this. This is them admitting that there is a deep state in control of these people. That they step out of line if they do something wrong. Even for an intelligent businessman, you don't want to mess with the intelligence services. You don't want to mess with the CIA, the FBI, and the agencies that are actually controlling the government. Like I said, we live in an oligarchy. And now it looks like the oligarchy is a little bit clustered right now, because even now they're admitting that Joe Biden is not doing well. That their easy puppeteer, their weekend at Bernie's prop is not even, doing well as just an ordinary human at this point. So this came out saying Joe Biden hit with fresh cognitive tests, demand as bombshell report exposes mental decline. Joe Biden is facing a barrage of calls to take a cognitive test over his mental health state, and those to be made public, according to this article from Express here. And it says calls are mounting for President Joe Biden to undergo a cognitive test and release the results publicly following a bombshell report that questions his mental sharpness. The 81-year-old president, who has been seen at the center of several embarrassing moments in the run-up to November's U.S. presidential election. Now the Wall Street Journal has published a detailed account suggesting Biden struggles with memory issues, confusion over policy details, and often speaks so softly that aides find it difficult to hear him. The report is based on interviews with 45 insiders and notes that Biden sometimes closes his eyes for long periods during meetings. The Wall Street Journal report also described Biden as increasingly reliant on notes and assistance from aides. In January meeting on Ukraine funding, Biden was described as slow to engage and reliant on prepared notes. Similarly, during debt ceiling negotiations in May, he reportedly struggled with conscientiousness and detail rendition. Dr. Stuart Fisher, a New York City internal medicine physician, stressed the need for Biden to take a cognitive test to reassure the public. The expert also expressed confusion over the reluctance from Biden's medical team, adding, "He's a doctor, not a spin doctor. He's a medical doctor who took an oath, like I did, to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. His patients should come first." In response to the Wall Street Journal report, the White House dismissed the allegations as partisan attacks, asserting that President Biden remains a sharp and vigorous leader. Biden's most recent physical examination was in February, conducted by physician Dr. Kevin O'Connor, who reported the 81-year-old is fit, active, and robust, and noted no new concerns about his health. So, I feel like this is at the point now where even, kind of a bit of the establishment is now looking at this going like, because this is how people are realizing that the country is being ruled by a deeper, darker force, as Trump said. And the fact that you have an 81-year-old who is cutting off his senses, can't, finish making speeches. He's, can't really go off stage. And the fact, and I wish I had the clip on me, but in the interview with Dr. Phil and Donald Trump there, one of the most hilarious parts, they mentioned about the conviction within the classified document scandal, if people remember that, where they raided Mar-a-Lago, they took documents, they said that Donald Trump stole a bunch of classified documents from the White House, which again is a made-up crime because as president, you are allowed to do that. You are president of the United States. You have full control of declassifying and classifying documents at whim. So the fact that they're trying to raid his house for that is ridiculous. But in part of that, they also went after Joe Biden's house in Delaware. And they raided his house. They took documents from his place. And Joe Biden was supposed to stand trial alongside with Donald Trump. Donald Trump went to trial for it on the classified document scandal. Joe Biden refused because his team, and get this, the president of the United States is incompetent enough, is not competent enough to stand trial. That's what they claim. So the guy who was responsible for running an entire country and the U.S. empire that is collapsing within is not competent enough to stand trial, but is apparently competent enough to have the responsibility of 330 million people, the economy, transit, war, military. Do you really expect me to believe that Joe Biden has a handle on this? God, no. I knew this from the start. I knew this way back when, that there was some sort of behind-the-scenes action that they're not going to tell you. That someone's really in control of the show, and it's a bunch of unelected mafia men who are really at the behest of controlling you and dominating over you and censoring you and silencing you and really ruling you with an iron fist. It's not Joe Biden. It's not Kamala Harris. It's not even, take our government. It's not even Justin Trudeau. It's people behind him that are really in cohorts of ruling over you. These are just the mascots. These are just the puppeteers. These are just the little, when they have the stand-up show, when they have the concert shows, these are the people that just come on and perform. They're just the advertisement to make it look like a healthy democracy, when even though it's not. Nowhere close to a democracy. It's an oligarchy. And this is significant proof of it. That you're getting threats from other politicians to not mess with the intelligence agencies because they have 9 ways Sunday to take you down. And the fact that people are now aware, people are more than ever aware that there is a dark entity that's really controlling the country. And the fact that more and more people are calling that out, the establishment's getting very wary of this. They're getting very emotional and anxious about this. People are realizing how the sausage is made, and now, oh God, we got to do something. So that's where all the censorship tactics are coming in. That's why they got to ban TikTok. That's why they got to go in harsh mode and demonize half the country as a bunch of deplorables. That's where January 6th. And so all these weaponizations to attack people, that's where it all comes down to, is people realizing how the system truly functions against them. And it's not just Trump. It's more people on that spectrum. It's anyone that steps outside the establishment that they get a target on their back. They're just using Trump because of the fact that Trump is running a presidential campaign. And more people would rather have a convicted felon game show host than take another term with an establishment crook. That's what we revealed in 2016, and that's what people are realizing in 2024.